the question?
That's fine. I looked at them and it would be any are fine. So as you wish.
Okay, so we have a quick look at the videos. What chances do you see if patients and therapists will have the chance to use cannabis medicine in Turkey? That's our first question.
Well, I cannot say I'm totally familiar with the political situation in Turkey with respect to cannabis, but I would hope that information on its importance in medicine would be getting through around the world. And I think that this is a general tendency. Of course, there's still forces that are opposed to the use of cannabis, mostly due to misconceptions about its dangers. I am not going to say that cannabis is totally harmless in all cases, but we have to make a distinction between medical use and overuse or abuse. It is true that some people can become dependent on cannabis as they could to almost any substance, but the true dangers as compared to other substances are very low. And really, this is not a sufficient explanation for why it should be a prohibited substance in this day and age in 2022.
Okay, thank you. So we got the next question. In respect to the path that you experienced and followed in the USA and in other to you known states, what would you recommend attendances in Turkey to do in this field?
Well, the situation is very complicated by politics. Unfortunately, it's the case that my country, the United States, was responsible primarily for prohibition of cannabis around the world. Cannabis was made illegal in 1937 in the United States, but they evangelized around the world to make it a prohibited substance, and that's continued through the auspices of the World Health Organization and the United Nations. At this point, I hope that these policies will be reversed so that people in need can use cannabis. Now, the situation in my country remains very complicated. Theoretically, cannabis with THC, tetrahydrocannabinol, in it remains illegal on the federal level, whereas types of cannabis that are considered hemp with under 0.3% THC are legal. Specifically, there are over 30 states among the 50 United States that have legalized cannabis in one respect or another, either for any kind of use or just for medical use. But there still are places where this is not the case, and people are still arrested and even jailed for this. Around the world, we've seen again liberalization, but this does not extend everywhere. However, there have been positive developments. A lot of countries in Southeast Asia that were staunchly prohibitionist now have medical programs and may even be encouraging commerce in cannabis. So for Turkey, a country that has thousands of years of use of cannabis, whether for textiles, fabrics, or medically, I think it would right a historical wrong to see changes that allowed its proper usage.
Thank you. So getting to the next question. Which kind of endemite types will and are applied in therapeutical treatments?
I'm not sure I understood the question. There in the question that I got, there was a word that I didn't understand. What is AMID? Medical?
It's wrong. It's I think the cannabinoid group is also called, the THC is called anandamides, and amides is the, as far as I know, is the general group of the cannabinoids. So you can also talk about cannabinoids. Which types of cannabinoids is, from your perspective, useful in certain treatments, as far as you're experienced and the researches that you made and find out or read about?
Okay, I'll start over with that one.
Yeah.
So there are three kinds of cannabinoids. Most familiar are what are called the phytocannabinoids, or plant-based cannabinoids that cannabis makes. There are also endocannabinoids, endogenous cannabinoids within our body that help explain why cannabis is useful medically. The endocannabinoid system is involved in regulating physiology, how our bodies work. So it's a very important influence on keeping our systems in balance. And this explains why the phytocannabinoids are so useful medically. There is finally a third group, synthetic cannabinoids, that work on the system, but are not found naturally. Among the phytocannabinoids that the plant makes, perhaps people have heard of tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, and cannabidiol, CBD, but the plant makes at least 148 other ones. We only know about the activity, the pharmacology, of about a dozen of these right now, but each of them has important medical principles. THC is very useful in treating a number of conditions. It's well shown to prevent nausea associated with chemotherapy. It has pain-reducing qualities. It does not act like the opioids to actually lower pain, but more has an effect on emotional components of pain. So people will feel the pain, but are able to tolerate it better and distance themselves from the pain. It also has a muscle relaxant effect. And in many countries, the drug called Sativex is approved as a treatment for spasticity, muscle tightness in multiple sclerosis. It also has effects on the gut that can be very helpful for inflammatory conditions. In contrast, cannabidiol is non-intoxicating, but nonetheless, it is very useful in treating anxiety. It has an antipsychotic effect. It can be used to treat schizophrenia, and it's an approved drug in many countries for treatment of severe seizures, epilepsy. But beyond that, I'll just mention a couple of others. Tetrahydrocannabivarin, THCV, actually reduces hunger in contrast to THC, and can be useful in treating diabetes and the metabolic syndrome. And another substance called cannabigerol, CBG, seems to be very useful in treating anxiety, also in treating pain, and it again is non-intoxicating. Beyond that, the plant makes many other substances called terpenoids that give cannabis its aroma. These also are useful medically in many respects, and may have anti-inflammatory effects, anti-anxiety effects, antidepressant effects. So cannabis is what's called a botanical medicine, meaning that there is not necessarily one active ingredient, but rather a number of different compounds that act in concert to produce what's called synergy, a boosting of effect, or what's been called the entourage effect. The idea that a basic, most important component like THC is complemented by the other components.
Thank you for this nice explanation. Let's get to the next question, which is, what should be the primary goal of International Association of Cannabinoid Medicine in respect of covering the knowledge gaps of the past and challenges of the future?
Right. So the International Association for Cannabinoid Medicines has been around now for over 20 years. I'm pleased to say that I've been associated with it since the beginning. And this has been a primary forum for doctors, scientists, and patients to come together and discuss their work in showing the therapeutic properties of cannabis. From this, many articles have been published, and its outreach has been able to come to many people around the world. Their newsletter is translated into several European languages. So it's been an important force in disseminating information about cannabis, which hopefully will be acknowledged by the politicians that make the decisions that hopefully will, again, allow better access of patients to these medicines.
Thank you for this answer. So let's get to our last question. Where can we draw the line between healthy reception of cannabis-based nutritions and when to the level, when it does come to the level of the compulsion crosses the line of not being a nutrition and getting to the area that's a medication. So where is the line? And actually, it goes also into the question. I always say people who talk about CBD and the use of THC, I said you don't need medications if you live healthy. If you get healthy nutritions,
right,
then you will be on the safe side. But I mean, if we talk about chronic diseases, if, for instance, cancer treatment or neurological treatments, you need higher doses. You need specific compositions of the cannabinoids. So this question goes in that direction. Maybe you can.
I'll hopefully be able to say. Okay, I'll start over. Cannabis also is useful nutritionally. It has an amazing seed that's very rich in essential fatty acids and high quality protein. Use of this as a nourishment can be very health providing. So this is another aspect of cannabis that points out why it should not be a forbidden plant. But beyond that, again, the plant makes many compounds which are useful medically. We have to acknowledge that people use cannabis recreationally, but there's a world of difference between people using cannabis to gain an altered state of consciousness, which usually requires fairly high doses, as compared to the very low doses that are usually necessary to treat conditions, whether it be pain, nausea, to help with sleep, or whatever the problem may be. In normal medical use, doses are low, side effects are few if used properly, and the risk of dependency is almost none. When cannabis is used properly in a medical setting, we simply hardly ever see dependency or bigger problems develop. So these are important distinctions. Any substance can be abused, but again, to deny patients in need access to a medicine that can be life-sustaining seems a step too far.
Thank you. So if we have some time left, I think we have some time left. We just can talk about experience and tell you a little bit what's going on here. So
sure.
From your answers, I see, yeah, there is a big tradition in Turkey with cannabis and this plant. And we started with, I started now, it's nine years ago that I started with this subject, and Yekta joined me, I think 1 year later, he joined me to this travel. travel in time as well as travel in discovering new things about this old plant. So we also talked with farmers who said it's something that's like aspirin. We have hemp. If we have any pain in our junctions in the bones, we make a paste out of it and put it on the area that hurts, and it helps. So that's the old style of making treatments with it. But as you said, in 1933, America's influence, and if I tell my son, this is not okay, it's forbidden, you don't do it, it's the sweet forbidden fruit that is more of an interest. So I think that surrounds the whole world, thanks to this American policy, or this lobby policy that makes this story go wrong. But it's still going on, and I think what you say about politics is a very important figure here, just to change this. And if we see what's going on in Turkey, I think a lot of politicians here in Turkey didn't hear the bell that the US is trying to change it partly. Last is Thailand. Thailand has completely legalized it, and it's in the medical use as in the recreational use. And if you see an Asian country like Thailand, which was totally strict, compared to Turkey, I think Turkey hasn't heard the bell yet. So you have still politicians who, and I think this is also not related not only to the medical side, but as well to the industrial use of it and the danger that comes with it. And I mean, you just have to remember that DuPont is just one of the main drivers of making a harmless plant to a very harmful image that it got in the 30s. So that is also still driving the anti-lobby of cannabis to keep it away in Turkey. I mean, if we're talking about textiles, I was made member of the Turkish Textile Exporters Foundation, and they're still talking about fabrics made out of recycled PET bottles. I mean, that's such a big nonsense, and people believe in this nonsense instead of making more, putting more energy into the alternatives that have been used for years, for hundreds of years, known very well as well in the Ottoman time, as the sultans had their underwear made out of hemp, which has a lot of positive effects. So I don't think that they really get back into the tradition that Turkey find in this plant. And this is something that Turkey has to find, and we'll have to get away from a lot of these bad ideas or prejudices that they have about if this plant is going to be legalized, we're going to be turned into Afghanistan. That's one saying of one authority who is working for the narcotics. On the other hand, you have people, I met a guy who was working on the research for farming and food program in the strategic office of the president. He said, you know, we have 81 provinces. In all provinces, illegally produced hemp is on the table. And I don't get it why it's not going to be legalized, because there's so much potential buried in this hidden culture that is existing, we're living it. So I think we have to make up our minds, and then I think Turkey can be much more helpful, as also in the situation to get things in the research part fulfilled. I mean, as you talk about diabetes and THCV, there is the group of one of the oldest universities in Turkey is the Medical School of Istanbul University, and they made some trials, and I read about this in the in the Medical Cannabis Foundation Association. So there are researchers, and we'll have to support with KEA. We have to support these researchers to do more. I mean, I heard about their problems they have to find material to make their researches. We'll have to get over that. I mean, I remember Meshulam telling about his the first experience in the late 50s when they got from the CIA to the Israeli police, they got marijuana, and then they started with their researches. It's the same here. It is hard to get the material to make researches in this country. So it's sometimes it's a little bit of a time travel, but we have to beam ourselves into 2020s, where we are right now, just to evaluate the time for this plan much better.
Yeah, very good. You know, if it's helpful to your audience, I have a tie to Turkey. My grandparents were born and were children in what's now North Macedonia while it was part of the Ottoman Empire.
Ah, okay.
So my grandfather considered himself a Turk throughout his life. He also
there is an oud over there. You have a very wonderful, a very good Zoom background. I really liked it as a recorder.
I got it a couple of months ago. I'm learning how to play. I find I'm very pleased with it.
Very nice. Very nice.
So it's part of my background because my grandmother didn't play the oud, but she played the mandolin. But certainly the oud was in use when they. Well, let's see. My grandfather was born in 1892. My grandmother was born in 1902. So, but yeah. So, I have this commonality to my background. I think that my grandfather spoke Turkish among his various languages.
Yeah.
Have you ever been visited our country before?
I've only been in the airport.
Okay.
So
Transit.
it's impressive, but certainly it's not the country. But my friend Rob Clark has traveled extensively in Turkey. Are you planning to speak to him? He doesn't do.
I spoke to him 5 years ago. He's coming very often, and we met him. And that was the time. The first time I took Yekta with me to one of the symposiums where Robert was also one of the speakers.
In Samsun, yes.
Yeah, and afterwards we made 2 meetings, I think, with Robert, and I think Robert was very, very helpful, and probably he is one of the biggest supporters that one of the Black Sea strains is still alive. And a few months ago, we find an Aegean strain called it's called the Gidis. It's a river area called Gidis, where we find another strain in a what is it, patient's bed. So they made a bed out of seeds, so that if the patient is laying, that he doesn't get any wounds in his back. Very interesting, and the strains still work. So we have 2 tons of the strain, so we can start getting more of it. So we have no adoption problem to produce industrial cannabis in this area, which is a huge advantage, because the other strain that Robert helped to survive with our academics. I also work with them, but sometimes we have very hard talks about about the right way to do things. We had a very long odyssey to make it really properly safe and produce more seeds to widen the plant production in Turkey again. So we are lucky with having Robert here, and I hope he'll be more often here in Turkey, and hope you will join him one day.
Yeah, I'd love to come. Especially now that there's less COVID. Someday I hope visit. I love your food as well. So,
well, what we are going to do is we find one dehulding machine, and we'll want to make hummus with hemp seeds, hemp hearts, and chickpeas. And there is one region, the Black Sea coast, it's known for its garlic. It's called Kastal'ın Taşköprü, and they also started. It's a very active community that's also producing industrial hemp now. So the combination of chickpeas and garlic, it's all there. We just have to mix it up and make a nice pastry out of it. So we're looking for very delicious times as well.
Excellent.
As I said, if you feed yourself in a healthy way, I don't think that you need all these really hard things. I may tell you something about. I was invited to the in 2019. Erdogan and I think Trudeau are the only politicians worldwide who are public supporters of hemp. And so he made an announcement, and then we made a meeting at the presidential residency in Ankara. And there was somebody from TÜBİTAK, that's the only scientific research institute in Turkey. Unfortunately, there's only one. There are also universities working with it. But that guy came over with the idea of using scientific drobaninol he wanted to use. So he wanted to produce the scientific, the artificial cannabinoids. And I was shaking my head saying, why is this guy sitting at this table? I mean, we're talking about plant production, and he's telling us something about synthetic production of cannabinoids. So it is hard.
Yeah, it is off the topic. Yeah. Thank you for your contribution, Mr. Russo. It was a privilege to make an interview with you. We are very lucky. And
yes.
After finishing our series of this interview, we will be share the final video with you to take your permission. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Of course. Thank you. Appreciate it. Take care.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.